only shooting 30% from the floor. It's hard to gather that rhythm, especially when you've got to do it against quality opponents.
And we are underway. The terrific freshman for Villanova, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, controls the tip. Nova in its blue uniforms, and Middle Tennessee State in its home whites. And for the Blue Raiders, keep an eye on number 55, Antonio Green, averaging 23.5 points per game. First possession, Nova goes inside to Gillespie.
Well, when you post your point guard and when you see that from Villanova, it immediately brings back the memories of Jalen Brunson playing on the block with Jay Wright's group a couple of years ago, leading them to a national championship. So Gillespie maybe got a little more than a broken nose and a banged up foot this summer messing around with Jalen Brunson.
There's the man who makes it happen, Jay Wright, two-time national champion head coach, 2016-2018, of course. And the man at the free throw line was a freshman reserve, backing up Jalen Brunson when they won the title last. They remain good friends, remain close, talk or text most every day. And as you mentioned, Brunson spent a lot of time back on campus over the summer. And, you know, for Gillespie, how can it get better than that, playing every day against him and Ryan Arcidiacono all summer?
Well, that's the mark of a great program. It's when your players that move on and have success at the NBA level and professionally come back and contribute to your program, and you see Gillespie off to a great start in this one already.
The two-time captain has all 5 points for Villanova.
And you see getting out in transition, and Villanova is not going to slow it down. They want to score and score quickly against a defense that's not set. Sadiq Bey with the ability to push the ball in the break, and finally Gillespie fires another three, and it's good. 8 points for Gillespie. I believe he was excited to get to Myrtle Beach.
I think he was, for many reasons. Well, according to his coach, Gillespie's fall was a nightmare, a terrible preseason. Donovan Sims gets the Blue Raiders on the board. But for Gillespie, this is his second game without the face mask. And I've got to think, Corey, that just allows, like it did in the Ohio game, just to feel more normal and get into your regular routine and flow.
Well, it does. But as you mentioned, you know, when you have to sit out time, as Gillespie fires another three, the heat check doesn't work. But still a good look for Villanova. But when you sit out that time, it's hard to regain a rhythm when you have to do it in game. It's one thing to be able to sit out and then have the opportunity to come back and get your rhythm back in practice. But when you have to do it in game and when you play the important role that he plays with his team, oftentimes you can struggle, and it normally affects your shooting percentage.
This is Eli Lawrence. Jace Jackson, the Buffalo native, left it short. Tyson Jackson over the left shoulder, a little strong, gets it back, and he's going to be called for the foul.
Tyson Jackson been very good for Middle Tennessee this season, starting his first 2 games and actually scoring in double figures, getting him into the starting lineup. But still very young and learning his way, and difficult to do against a quality competition like Villanova.
And Jackson is one of 11 new players for second-year head coach Nick McDevitt, who's a 40-year-old native of Marshall, North Carolina. Strong move to the hole for Justin Moore, freshman with a big upside for Villanova.
Strong is the best adjective you can to describe that. When you go to the hole and guys are laying on their back when you finish, that's a problem. Justin Moore using that strength to be able to finish over the top.
Corner three way off the mark. Pulled down by Robinson-Earl. And he dribbles up. The 5-star recruit. That's a nifty look for Nova. Layup game of the 2019 Myrtle Beach Invitational, and it's quite a destination, and Villanova, as always, travels very, very well.
Very well traveled. Right now, when you look, both sides are actually covered in what I would believe to be navy blue. Not black, correct?
That's true. I forget you the colorblind color analyst. Moore, again, off a nice feed from Jeremiah Robinson-Earl.
But Doug, one thing that you've seen from this Villanova team in the short span of this game, you've seen all all 5 players initiate offense. So whoever rebounds it can push it, and that's one of the things that makes them so dangerous. You know, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is not a center by any stretch of the imagination, but in this lineup, he's really playing the center position. But a great rebounder, and when he rebounds the basketball, he can push it. And when you have bigs like he and Saddiq Bey that are able to push the ball in transition, it makes you so difficult to guard because it's hard for big men to get that matchup in transition.
Tyson Jackson leaves for the Blue Raiders. Here's Antonio Green, 5th-year senior from Tupelo, Mississippi, one of the great scorers in college basketball these days. His statistics and three-point shooting are off the charts. Jones off the bounce. Another rebound for Robinson-Earl, who again, for the 3rd time, grabs the loose ball and heads up court with the dribble.
And pushes the tempo offensively, and now you've got a dribble handoff between the 2 bigs. Oh, that's a big-time rebound. And one thing you've seen already from Middle Tennessee, they will not be bashful about their three-point shooting.
Well, it's a little different. Reality has been that they have been so veteran heavy in recent years. He says the veteran players are more ready to win early in the season, and he has to spend less time coaching previous iterations of Villanova than he does this year because they're so young and new.
And he has 2 freshmen in the starting lineup, and then you look at, Saddiq Bey, who is special talent, but only a sophomore. So this is a younger group, but they have come in really with a sense of urgency in this game early. You can see it for Villanova in their warm-ups. They're very communicative, they're loud, and you can tell they're ready to play when they step on the floor.
Well, there are practice habits for Villanova that are indisputable, and you have to do them. They're standards: jump stops, pivoting, bounce passes. And this year, Coach Wright says he's had to do more basic coaching with this group than he has in recent years about those sorts of Villanova practices.
Well, whatever he's doing, it works.
Yes.
When you consider that he's won 50% of the national championships over the last 4 years, it is working.
And in that time, he's put a half a dozen players into the NBA.
And right now, Middle Tennessee just unable to find the range. That's the 3rd air ball we've seen on a three-pointer. They're 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. And this is a three-point shooting team.
Now, the last defender was Tyler Millen, a freshman from Calera, Alabama. Pulls Swider into the game. Boy, he's got a sweet stroke. Sophomore who's starting to feel himself a little bit this year.
And the shot was the least impressive part of that. The ball movement was spectacular. Each player looking to make the extra pass. And Swider, of course, can knock it down from 3. But when you look at this Villanova team as they bring in Swider and Brandon Slater off the bench, there's a tremendous amount of talent on this team. It is young talent. But this group can be special as we get through the end of the season.
Jackson DeLawrence on the give and go, and the freshman from Atlanta has his first 2. Yes, Swider on the young season now 10 of 19 from beyond the three-point line. Think he's struggling with a new distance?
Not at all.
No.
He was one of those guys, you watched him in high school, you knew he was going to be able to shoot regardless of the distance.
Little pick and roll broken up. Damir Cosby Roundtree had it knocked away. Nice run to the floor by Tyler Millen. And the 6'7" freshman will head to the free throw line.
But Doug, when you have ball movement like this, you have no choice but to make the shot. Gillespie with the dribble drive baseline, the kick, extra pass, finding Swider at the top of the key, was able to knock down the 3. And that's one of those plays where you get shown on tape. If you don't make that shot, yeah, we're going to see that the next day.
Well, another word that I think of when I think of Villanova basketball in the 19 years Jay Wright's been involved. Well, let's first show the 5-star making his college debut, Brian Antoine, who had right shoulder surgery May 31st. He was physically cleared for all basketball activities earlier this month. He has gone through the rigors of practice, and now the Villanova fans who made the trip here to Myrtle Beach get a chance to see one of the jewels of one of the top recruiting classes in the country. Brandon Slater says, what about me?
We mentioned Brandon Slater, tremendous athlete, Doug. I can tell you, I watched this young man playing for Team Takeover back in when he was a 7th, 8th, and 9th grader. And he could be that big, unreal athlete and fits perfectly into this Villanova system because of his length and his ability to defend, but finding himself on the right side of a highlight.
He played only a total of 52 minutes last year, Corey, so this is really like his freshman year in many ways. But the word I was going to use that I think about with Jay Wright and Villanova basketball is connected. Both on the court and off the court, his players, his staff, connected.
And that's because of the culture that has been built by Jay Wright and his program. You know, Villanova's success regarding their national championship didn't just start 4 or 5 years ago. It started, 15 years ago when Jay Wright was building the foundation of this program. And now you see the fruits of his labor manifesting by the national championships, by the national recognition. But he's been a great coach for a very long time. And now he's getting the players, because of it, to be able to come in and buy into his system.
Yeah, 8 currently in the NBA, including a defending NBA champion and Kyle Lowry, of course, with Toronto. Gillespie buries the 3, and he's already into double figures.
I'm sorry, was Gillespie having shooting issues coming in? Was that the case? Is that what you said in the open?
Was past tense.
Oh, okay.
26% coming in, and he's barely batted an eyelash so far this morning.
Absolutely. I mean, difficult, I'm sure, to shoot in that mask, but you see the preparation coming in for this tournament. And one of the things that coaches love about coming to an environment like this, the camaraderie that's gained between the team, spending this much time on the bus, in the hotel, and as you mentioned with Jay Wright's group, staying connected, really helps the performance on the floor.
My goodness. Like a well-oiled machine early on. Gillespie finds Robinson Earl for his first 2.
Well, right now, this is a clinic, and we're having a lot of, you see, getting on the floor, diving after loose balls.
Johnson thought about calling for a timeout, thought better of it, and maybe he should have. He was in an impossible spot. Villanova's defense continues to swarm.
But Gillespie getting the foul on that possession to the displeasure of Jay Wright. Gillespie dove on the floor twice during this possession. And a great trap you see going after the basketball. I'm not one to question the officials, so I won't tell you what I really think about that one. I don't know how it's a foul.
Well, nonetheless, he will head to the bench. You can see what Colin thinks about it, just like what Corey thinks about it. Villanova's already scored 11 points off of Middle Tennessee State turnovers, and the lead is 20.
And great to see Brian Antoine on the floor. You mentioned it, had that surgery May 31st, right after the McDonald's All-American game. And he told me then that he was going to have the surgery so that he could be prepared to start the season off at Villanova. But great to see this young man. It was a big deal about whether he would redshirt or not. And Jay Wright recognizing that in practice he was able to take those hits and the contact on the shoulder without it deterring him, and knew he was ready to play at that point.
Tyson Jackson, the flush. Freshman out of Creekside High School in Georgia with his first 2.
I love this move right now with Gillespie on the bench. You see Justin Moore stepping in and running the point guard position. Moore, another one of the special freshmen for Villanova. And in their closed-door scrimmage, 39 points versus North Carolina.
Antonio Green setting up Eli Lawrence.
And now Middle Tennessee starting to find its way around the rim, getting out in transition, a couple layups to build some confidence. And they've been able to slow Nova down just a little bit, going to the zone defensively.
Moore calls his own number. Good box out by Tyson Jackson. Antonio Green averaging nearly 24 a game, still looking for his first points today. Feed the post. Tough shot, way off the mark for Jace Johnson.
But again, Gillespie, a tough kid. He's going to go out and play for his team no matter what. The mask, slowed him down a little bit, but I'm sure he's happy to be playing without it.
Again, this is second game without the mask. You remember last year, Villanova had a graduate transfer named Joe Cremo who wore, for a good chunk of the season, a face mask, and I felt like he never found his stride, perhaps because of that. Perhaps not, but he just never seemed to get in sync. Green still looking for his first points. Gillespie fouled by Green. You know, talking yesterday to that man, Antonio Green, this is a big opportunity for Middle Tennessee. This guy's a veteran. He has played big schools before, but I asked him, what's it like when you play, you know, number 17 Villanova? And he said, Jay Wright is a legend. I mean, for these guys, you come out and you notice Jay Wright is standing right over there, future Hall of Famer, and it's a little different, I would imagine, for the Blue Raiders.
Yeah, I'm sure it is different, and when you think about it, of course, he's a guy that has scored a bunch of points, but he wants to be able to do it on the biggest stage, as Slider has stepping up and knocking down his second three-pointer of this first half. And you know, Green getting to play against guys like Gillespie, who he sees on SportsCenter and gets to follow all their highlights. He wants to have a big performance. But when you're at the top of the scouting report against Villanova, they want to make your life difficult. They've done that for Green here early in this first half. Other than the one open look you just missed, everything has been contested to him.
And see the company keys. Marcus Howard and Miles Howell are 1 and 3 around Antonio Green for career after three-pointers made. Swider this time takes it to the bucket. He's brought 8 points off the bench.
And Coach McDevitt not happy about the fact that Green just got beat off the dribble by Cole Swider from the wing. Coach isn't concerned about you missing shots. He knows you'll make shots at some point, as Jones does on that one coming off. But he cannot live with you getting beat by a power forward off the dribble.
And for C.J. Jones, perhaps the Arkansas transfer will get it going. We haven't even mentioned him, and he's averaging 20 points per game coming into this one.
Yeah, the two of them combined, the 4th highest scoring combo in college basketball. But right now, Coach Swider putting on a clinic from beyond the arc.
He matches Gillespie's 11 points, and the lead is back to 20. Green going to work. Little teardrop. Beats the buzzer and rattles in.
That's a confidence builder for Green, and not that he struggles with confidence, but just to see the basketball go in is always going to be important for a scorer, especially when you've been over 11 minutes without your first basket and you're averaged over 23 points a game.
Yeah, you told me yesterday, Corey, I'm a shooter, I'm a scorer. Gillespie way off the mark. Lawrence pulls it down. Here come the Blue Raiders.
Oh, after great ball movement, Gillespie's definitely in the film session tomorrow after missing that shot.
Swider is going to be called for the bumping foul that landed C.J. Jones on the floor. Friday, what a doubleheader we'll have for you on ESPN and the ESPN app. DeMar DeRozan leads the Spurs against Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and the 76ers at 8 p.m. Eastern. Then James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Rockets take on Kawhi, Paul George, and the Clippers. Coverage begins with NBA Countdown at 7 o'clock. Will Ben Simmons shoot another three-point shot? The breathless conversation after he finally made his first NBA three yesterday.
Well, I love the fact that he shot it in rhythm and it was a three that mattered. And, you know, again, Ben Simmons, as great as he is, will be even more dangerous with the three-point shot, as would Antetokounmpo. When you think about what Giannis has been able to do really without it in his game. But at some point, we've just got to appreciate how good these guys are.
It's amazing.
Without it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so again, you don't have to have everything to be great. And both, in my opinion, are great right now without the three-pointers.
Just under 8 minutes remaining first half, this opening game of the Myrtle Beach Invitational. 17th ranked Villanova has been in complete control from the jump. Brandon, Georgetown, Texas, a couple of coaches who have their programs heading in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Patrick Ewing and Shaka Smart and a number of studs playing in that game. Will be an interesting Final Four in the tournament. But, you know, I can tell you right now, I've now seen Villanova live for 12 minutes.
Yep.
I've seen Louisville, I've seen North Carolina, I've seen Virginia, and I've seen Duke. Offensively and defensively, and I know that Villanova has the big loss at Ohio State.
Right.
That could often be a wake-up call. Right now, from what I've seen, for just, 12 and a half minutes, I haven't seen this level of play from any of those four teams that are ranked in the top 10 offensively and defensively. Virginia, of course, defensively is nothing like it. But offensively, they don't do what Villanova does. North Carolina, offensively nor defensively, does what Villanova does. Louisville, offensively, is spectacular. And then when you think about Duke, they're more of a defensive-laden team this year. So this has to be right now the best team that I've seen. And in just a 13-minute span, this is probably the best team I've seen live so far this year.
You realize they just got a shot clock violation while you were saying how well they've been playing.
Well, that's because I was talking through the entire possession.
That wasn't. You get a 30-second violation. No, so they'll keep the arrow. Will Middle Tennessee State. And Coach Wright's team turns it over. So you alluded to the loss in Columbus to Ohio State. What do you do with that if you're a Villanova fan? I mean, it's really hard to get that image out of your mind that, well, we certainly are vulnerable. And if you can get beaten like that on any given day, we got a lot to work on.
Well, what you do with it is you use it as motivation for your team, as Jay Wright has done. You see the energy and the effort level they've come out with in this game on both ends of the floor. As Middle Tennessee does a great job attacking the offensive glass and coming up with an opportunity for second chance points. But you go back and you go to the film and see what all you did wrong. And what they did wrong with this possession is not boxing out. Tyler Millen coming in from out of nowhere and grabbing the offensive board. Now, see, that's when I should have continued talking through the free throw. Wow.
Took your breath away. Well, Millen is only 3 for 10 on the year so far, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised by that.
Oh, no. You should be surprised. You don't have to be surprised if he misses it. See, I'm not surprised by that. But when you don't hit the rim and wide right for a left-handed shooter, that is tough. Surprising.
Anthony Crump is coming to the game for Middle Tennessee State. Brian Antoine back on the floor as Gillespie pulls up. And I should say, during practice yesterday, Brian Antoine to me looked fantastic. You talked about that he is now physically sound. He's gone through the rigors. Donovan Sims with the three.
That's the first three for Middle Tennessee, and they survived beyond that line. So now 1 for 6 from them shooting the three. And I'm sure good for Coach McDevitt to see his team get a bucket, and now they get the turnover. And did I curse Villanova talking about how great they were in the first 12 minutes of this game?
It wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, this is true.
Under 6 minutes to go in the half, and ever since Corey Alexander said what he said, they've gone flat the last 2 minutes. I'm just saying. But here come the Blue Raiders.
I tell you who was not.
As we've seen here lately.
And actually did come off the bench, played, started the game, but didn't play much early because he had the 2 turnovers early. Coach McDevitt taking him out of the basketball game. And now Sims coming back in, kind of with a renewed mind and knocking down a couple of back-to-back buckets.
Well, he's got 7 points to lead Middle Tennessee State. Meanwhile, Villanova has not scored in 3.5 minutes. That's the 4th three-point shot that hasn't hit the rim.
And that's, rare for this team because they are a very good three-point shooting team, especially when you consider Green and Jones, 2 guys who shoot over 50% from beyond the arc coming into the tournament.
Gillespie gets Villanova back on the board, and the junior captain now has 14 points.
Well, I'm not a numbers guy, though.
Okay.
But Gillespie came in shooting 26% from 3, correct?
Yep. And
Green and Jones both over 50% from 3, correct?
Yep.
Okay. How many threes has Gillespie made in this one?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. Hey, great counting, by the way.
Offensive foul goes against Anthony Crump, the redshirt freshman from Inkster, Michigan.
Inside-out basketball. Gillespie just finding the open spot. Jeremiah Robinson Earl stuck in traffic, kicking it out, recognizing where the hot hand is, and a big bucket for Gillespie, who now has 14 points and 4 three-pointers. I believe 4 for 5 from beyond the arc. Knocking that one down.
And you talk about the connected nature of Villanova. They've now got 13 made field goals. 11 of them have been assisted, including 3 times with Jeremiah Robinson Earl. There we go again. Justin Moore with 7 points.
There's my guy, Justin Moore, stepping up, knocking down the 3. Been around that young man since he was a pup, very small, and watched him develop into a great basketball player. Playing for Mike Jones at DeMatha, WCAC champion. His little brother Jason right now does. Offers from Penn State and Maryland as a defensive end.
Wow.
And a pretty good hoops player as well.
Once again, Middle Tennessee State getting after the offensive glass. Tyson Jackson will head to the line. So is Justin's kid brother bigger than him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jason goes about 6'6". He's a monster right now. Talking to his dad, Greg, earlier today, and Mom Kelly here, Uncle Dwayne, all making the trip down. You see Mom Kelly checking it out. And now here's the craziest part, all right? So that's Mom, that's Kelly. She's sitting behind the scores table on the Villanova side.
Okay.
Greg, the dad, is all the way across behind us. I talked to him before the game. I said, why are you sitting over here? He said, I like to be by myself. But his Uncle Dwayne is sitting up to Kelly's left. So the Moore family here very well represented, just all in different seats.
You remember Jason Thompson, the lottery pick of the Sacramento Kings?
I do remember Jason Thompson.
His parents did the same thing. Mom couldn't stand to sit next to Dad because of the excitement and the way the game went.
I can tell you right now, I've seen that oftentimes, and it's normally the dad can't stand to sit beside Mom because Mom is yelling so loud.
Damir Cosby Roundtree with the layup, his first 2 points. The lead is 19.
And Villanova really stemming the tide and gives Middle Tennessee credit for the zone really taking Villanova out of their offensive execution. But this team is good enough to adjust to playing against the zone, and they've done that as Kelly likes what she. Everybody likes to call it a secret scrimmage now.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they call them secret scrimmages, because they're secrets we wouldn't know about.
Exactly.
Okay, so a closed door scrimmage is what I called it. But 39 points for Justin. Well, that not bad at all for the freshman.
Well, this freshman class, the sophomore class, has looked good as Villanova seems to be finding its stride. Brandon Slater turns it over.
And you see Slater, he and Justin Moore are actually teammates for Team Takeover on the Keith Stevens EYBL champs a couple years ago. So, a lot of guys on this Villanova team with history going back to high school, Slater and Moore were rivals at Paul VI and DeMatha in WCAC play, but teammates in AAU. So, and then Sadiq Bey from the area as well grew up around these guys. You got a lot of the DMV flavor on this Villanova team.
Which is an area Jay Wright has always done very well in.
That he has. When you go back and you look at, of course, Phil Booth, and then Josh Hart, who is the truest example of what Villanova basketball is all about.
Yep. Swider getting closer to a career high already. Opening day, he put 18 on Army. He's already up to 13 points today.
But it goes back to what we were talking about before. When you think about the fact that you bring Slater, who makes a great defensive play, and now Brian Antoine off the bench, and you already have Gillespie, Sadiq Bey, Jeremiah Robinson Earl in your lineup, and Slater continues.
And LaFonso give their Final Four predictions. You willing to offer up the Final Four predictions just yet?
Not even close.
All right.
Not even close. When you think about this year, there aren't any teams that have separated themselves that just, are great teams that you say no one's going to beat this team in March. But yet a bunch of good teams in college basketball right now. I think a tremendous amount of parity. I'll be interesting to see what Seth and Fonz come up with at halftime, so I can disagree with both of them. Hard to disagree with Fonz. Not hard at all to disagree with coaches.
Shot clock violation. Jace Johnson's attempt came after the buzzer. Been a problem for Nick McDevitt at that end of the floor. He's got C.J. Jones and Antonio Green coming in, averaging combined 44 points per game. They each have 2.
Well, give Villanova's defense the credit for that. And oftentimes, your best defense is a great offense, and the great offense has been Cole Swider, who's unable to finish on that one. But Villanova's put so much pressure on the Blue Raiders that everything for Middle Tennessee right now has been under duress. And you see a simple play now ends up being a turnover, and Coach McDevitt just no understanding as to why things are going the way they are for his team right now. The simple things are becoming so complicated.
And Middle Tennessee got off to a good start to the year, winning its first 3, but here in this building on Monday lost to Coastal Carolina. The defense in the second half, in Coach's words, was awful. And they've stayed here in Myrtle Beach straight through, got their workouts in, but they have struggled against the 17th ranked team in the country. Brian Antoine's first collegiate shot misfires, but there's Swider once again. 18 points for the sophomore out of St. Andrews in Rhode Island. CJ
Jones knocking down a 3, and you see once again he plays with a tremendous amount of confidence. The transfer from Arkansas coming in and trying to do what a previous transfer Nick King was able to do for Middle Tennessee a couple years back and leading them to the NCAA tournament.
How about the range for the freshman Justin Moore?
Who do you help off of for Villanova?
Well, here's the problem. They've got 6 guys averaging double figures. They already have 3 in double figures, including Moore now with 10.
And that's with Brian Antoine making his debut tonight. He could be another one of those guys averaging in double figures once he gets into a rhythm.
Although he's going to have to get the shots from somewhere, take them from somebody.
Hey, when you play the pace that Villanova's playing at, shots are not a problem because you get a tremendous amount of possession.
The former Arkansas Razorback starting to heat up. CJ Jones now with 7. Final seconds of this first half. Swider with a new career high. Give him 21 as the buzzer sounds. 10, and here is today's game track brought to you by Visit Myrtle Beach. Swider and Gillespie. And then the shooting has been impeccable. And on the flip side, Corey, Middle Tennessee State isn't going to beat anybody, certainly of this ilk, if they don't get more out of Antonio Green, who scored only 2 points in 12 minutes, saddled with 2 personal fouls. And we just saw there, as soon as he touched the ball, Moore comes and double teams him. He needs his teammates to pick him up.
Well, he definitely needs that. And a great pass on that possession to get Tyson Jackson to dunk, and now we'll see Middle Tennessee go back to that zone defense, which did slow Villanova down for a second, but I'm sure that's something that Jay Wright talked to his team about. And they make the adjustment early. Robinson Earl getting off to a great start here in the second half, getting an early bucket.
4 points now for the freshman out of Bishop Miege High School in Kansas. The Big East Conference preseason freshman of the year.
Wait. Did you forget about IMG? He won a national championship.
I didn't forget.
IMG Academy
I didn't forget, but I like to go to his hometown high school and make sure they aren't forgotten in the sweepstakes of going to the big time schools.
Okay.
We'll get to IMG. We'll get to Hargrave. We'll get to, what's your schooling?
Oh, stop it. Saw Jeremiah Robinson Earl's teammate at IMG last night, Armando Bacot, go for 24. Bacot. I keep calling him Bacot, and I've known the kid since he was
6 years old. French?
Exactly. Bacot going for 24 points and 14 rebounds for North Carolina, both career highs for him.
How good is he going to be?
He's going to be very good. No question about it. Just like Jeremiah Robinson Earl is going to be very good. He's really good right now.
Yeah.
And both these guys coming in playing large roles for teams that have tremendous expectations. But, you know, with the preparation they got at IMG under Coach Sean McElroon, they're prepared for it.
Here's a look at father-son McDonald's All-America combos, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, the son of Lester Earl, as you see there. And, well, mom is Katie Robinson, but dad is Lester, who played at LSU for Dale Brown back in the mid-90s, then played 3 years at Kansas for Roy Williams. And Jeremiah comes from very good basketball stock.
He really does. And, you know, Doug, I had the opportunity to interview him at the McDonald's game last March. And that was the thing that he was most excited about, was being there because his dad was a McDonald's All-American. And he was just beaming about the fact that he was able to be there and be part of that father-son combo, similar to my McDonald's All-American roommate, Rick Brunson. He was Eric Brunson back then, before he had gone to Brick. Yes.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, he was Eric Brunson back in the day we were coming through high school. As we see the block, Sadiq Bey getting a hand on there, then Justin Moore going and meeting Johnson at the summit of that one. And Justin Moore has done a little bit of everything here this morning, now afternoon as well, as Coach Swider checks in the game, locked and loaded. Heat check for Swider.
You know, you mentioned Rick Brunson and then his son, of course, Jalen, who's one of the all-time great Villanova Wildcats, key point guard for 2 national championship teams. And he brought an old man's game from the time he showed up at Villanova. And I feel like there are elements of that in several of the current Villanova players.
And when you say that old man's game, you don't mean that in any disrespect. That's a compliment, of course.
Well, as an old man, of course, I would say it as a compliment.
But he got that old man style game from his dad.
Right.
You know, Rick was very similar in the way that he performed, but, you know, played with so much precision and basketball intelligence. And you see Jeremiah Robinson-Earl coming over with the block shot. Cole Schwider getting on the floor with the hustle, trying to save that one. Unable to do so, but Middle Tennessee gets it back with only 13 remaining on the shot clock. But this is the team that's not going to take long to shoot anyway.
And to me, Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is one of those guys I'm referring to who has the elements of an old man's game.
Well, Saddiq Bey has a new young man's game when you think about the stretch 4 position, the ability to shoot the ball from beyond the arc. And, you know, we haven't talked much about Saddiq Bey, who probably was considered to be, that's going to be offensive interference. Take that basket away. But Saddiq Bey probably came into this season with the most notoriety for any of the Villanova players. As you see Jackson going up and tipping in them. It's one thing when you tip in someone else's shot, but your own, you got to give that a chance. You need that bucket.
Bey finds the open man from the corner, but the shot by Slater misses the mark.
But Bey hasn't had a huge game here. I mean, he's played well, but, you know, when you look at what everyone else has done, probably the best player for Villanova has been able to have a quiet afternoon.
Third foul on Antonio Green. And they're finally closing out better on Cole Schwider, but you can't overcommit. Villanova's made half of its three-point shots so far here today, 12 of 24. Bey initiates the offense, and a traveling violation. Robinson-Earl missed a step. Yeah, you're right. Bey came in having made last year's Big East all-freshman team, average 8-9 points per game, and you expect him to take that next step up.
Well, and he has. You know, spent some time with him at the Nike Basketball Academy this summer. He was very good, has developed as a player. You know, had an opportunity to watch him play at Sidwell Friends School in Washington, D.C., where he played for my guy Eric Singletary.
Josh Hart's alma mater, by the way.
Yeah. Sidwell's been very good for Villanova.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Yeah. Illegal screen. Tyson Jackson whistled for the foul. There's Saddiq Bey, 6'8", 216-pound sophomore from Largo, Maryland. Originally committed to NC State, but then with the coaching change, found a different home. Boy, that was good feed from Gillespie. Just couldn't finish on the business end. Brandon Slater. Jones off the bounce.
Tell you what, Jones has been aggressive and been successful. He's going to need to get some help. And with Green on the bench in foul trouble right now, where's that help going to come from? But Jones has been very good for a team that struggled here early in this game.
Slater missed another one at the rim. Tries again. That's 3 in a row. Robinson-Earl goes to the left hand. He glanced over his one shoulder and said, nah, I'm not going that way. I'm going the other.
Too much traffic over that left shoulder. We go back over the right shoulder with the left hand and get a bucket.
Lawrence has a step on Slater, who is called for the foul. And now wholesale changes for the Wildcats. Gillespie, Slater, and Robinson-Earl go out as we are very near the first official timeout of the second half. Antoine, Cosby, Roundtree, and Moore back into the game. Again, this is Brian Antoine's collegiate debut. Still looking for his first points in a Villanova uniform. Number 1 in blue for the Cats. Great hesitation. Justin Moore has a dozen.
And when you talk about that old man game as you described, Justin Moore has the ability to play both. He has that style, but of course can be explosive as well. But you see probing through the paint and the opportunity to just, freeze his defender and then score easily at the rim. But Justin Moore having a very good afternoon as well.
And when I say old man game, I don't mean to imply that they don't have the explosive side to it as well. That it's just part of what they do.
No, you're saying they play like Doug Sherman at the
No. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Finish. Looks over the right, not there, jumps and finishes with the left. And if that's not Douglas, Sherman at the Y, then what is?
Well, he finished his shot. Sherman, Douglas.
Sherman, Douglas. Douglas, Sherman.
But, Jeremiah has a knack for rebounding. He's got 9 boards already, and he strikes me as the type who someday might be flirting with triple-doubles. He has that well-rounded kind of game.
Well, he does, and you see how great he rebounds the basketball, but then his ability to push it and get out in transition only helps this Villanova team start their offense. And when you've got this level of shooters around you, getting assists is not difficult to do. See the scramble. And this is really what I've liked about Villanova, what I've seen most. This is probably about the 6th or 7th time we've seen guys jumping and diving on the floor. But that's part of that culture that Jay Wright has created at Villanova, where it's expected of you. It's not as though it's something, hey, you get a pat on the back for diving on the floor after a loose ball. We saw Gillespie do it on 2 possessions. And again, it's something that's expected, and they not only expect it from his coaching staff, but from all those guys who have come and been great in that program. The Jalen Brunsons, the Josh Harts, who are calling back and texting these guys.
Green had to fire it up. Nice job to work the offensive glass by Johnson. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit, that culture and the fact that it's passed down. While Jay Wright and his coaching staff certainly sets the tone, it is for sure a family created over the last 20 years under Coach Wright, where the players and the alumni all have ownership of what is done at Villanova. Moore. And Jermaine Samuels is one of those guys who has grown into that type of leadership role. And Coach Wright says he's playing like a Villanova junior. And it's just what you're talking about, Corey. Setting the tone. Here he is with the basketball, making sure the younger guys know this is how we do it.
Absolutely. And he's done a great job of being a leader for this team. And Samuel's a tremendous athlete, not the best basketball player on the team, but you talk about the energy and the effort and that leadership. That's what makes him special for this group. And he's one of those guys to where Jay Wright is never going to have to coach effort. And that's one of the things as a coach you appreciate for your players. You know that they're going to be consistent with their effort every night out. Shots may not fall, but you're not going to have to coach that effort.
Cosby Roundtree in a tough spot. Held ball. Possession arrow stays with the Wildcats.
The ball movement once again, finding Brandon Slater, who's able to knock down the 3, and he's really added that dimension to his game. Being at Nova, was a capable scorer, but not necessarily much of a shot maker in high school, but has really improved from beyond the arc since he's been in college.
Antoine. Corey, on that replay, what types of passes did we see? Only
all bounce passes.
It's amazing when you watch a Villanova practice, almost all bounce passes. I dare to say nobody in the country as a team uses the bounce pass more and more effectively. Tell you what, Jace Johnson continues to bring energy. The sophomore out of Canisius High School in Buffalo, who actually was going to be a college quarterback at Wagner, but then changed his mind and said, you know what, I'd rather play hoops.
And one thing Johnson is exposing is what could be a problem for Villanova this season. Is taking care of the defensive glass. And you see 4 blue jerseys in there with 1 white jersey, and the white jersey winning the battle. As Johnson's able to grab the offensive rebound and finish it up. And when you look at this Villanova lineup, outside of Roundtree, they don't play a true big, because Bay and Jeremiah Robinson Earl aren't bigs. They're really stretch fours. but very skilled. And so that could be the one area of concern where you could be concerned about this Villanova team is would they get beat up on the offensive glass by a team that plays them with much more size.
Where else might they be vulnerable this year?
That's pretty much it.
That's it. Seriously.
Seriously. I mean, when you look at what they've done, their ability to extend the court defensively, you know, playing the 1-2 zone that they played, it slow you down, but also they get after you defensively in the man-to-man. But when you look at their offensive capabilities, talking with Fran Fraschilla, who, of course, is the ultimate basketball junkie, his games aren't until like this afternoon sometime, and he's sitting over here beside us checking. But, of course, and his son, Matt, the video coordinator for Villanova, so here supporting his son as well. But we talked about the fact that the ceiling is so, you know, high for this team. Because when you look at it, they've got a bunch of young guys playing, all playing for each other. You don't see selfishness on the floor, but they've got so much talent. And, you know, that's what wins in college basketball. You know, we talk about the coaches. The coaches are the true stars of the system. But you've got to have talent to win. And Jay Wright has it on this roster.
Gillespie getting after Antonio Green, who is stuck on 2 points. 22 points below his season average. And a foul with 2 on the shot clock. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl called for the personal.
And Jay Wright talking with the officiating crew about the fact that Green may have thrown his head back after that. And that's one of the areas, the flops, that they want to take out. There was contact, so I wouldn't say that was the case for Green, but something that, you know, the NCAA is trying to eliminate from the game.
Count the basket. And a chance for 3 as Samuels picks up the personal foul. Chase John one. You're right.
He doesn't need a credential. He's walking around with all those credentials on. Everybody knows him in the building.
Well, he had the occasion to speak at the pre-tournament banquet last night here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Do a fabulous job bringing these 8 teams together. Everybody's guaranteed to play 3 games, win or lose, over the next 4 days. And the good news is 7 of the 8 teams are going to go back to their campuses, Corey, with at least 1 win. The bad news is you're guaranteed that one of these teams is going to go for 3, and you don't want to be that team.
I don't know if it's good news to go back with only 1 win.
Better than 0-3.
It's better than 0-3, but nowhere near as good as 2-1 or even 3-0. See, that's the difference. Glass half full, glass half empty.
Yeah.
Which one am I?
Well, depends on the day. Well, Coach Wright, his team is not going to go home 0-3 after this one. And I mentioned before we went to break that I asked him the question, is Villanova basketball a blue blood? And yesterday, he looked at me and he said, I don't know. And then he smiled and he said, I like it when people say it, but I'm not sure. And then he went on to say what's most important to him is that the former Wildcats are proud of how the current guys are playing and that they say the young guys are playing Villanova basketball.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I do think that they are a blue blood when you consider that the Villanova program has won 3 national championships, 2 under Jay Wright, 1, of course, under Raleigh Nascimento.
Yep.
And not only the national championships, but the culture. And when Jay Wright walks into a room, it can be all the coaches that you recognize as a different aura about him, and especially with high school recruits. You know, when you get the Villanova offer, it's exciting. And so that's what makes you a blue blood in my mind, is when you get the respect of the coming up with that one where we thought it was the tied possession. That's going to be Sims, I believe, picking up that foul. I'm sorry, Anthony Crump coming in and getting that foul, and trying to tie the basketball in the possession as we see Middle Tennessee going to the 1-3-1 zone. And Villanova moving the ball around the perimeter. As you talked about, those bounce passes leading to the hot hand of the first half. Cole Slaughter knocking down his first 3 here in the second half.
Corey, explain why bounce passes are so important and effective.
Well, one, you don't put the ball up in the air in order for the opposing team to be able to come away with a live ball turnover and take it to the other end of the floor. You have to, you know, you make a defensive player getting in different position to be able to steal the basketball, having to get low to the floor. And oftentimes, those are the mistakes defenders make by not being low enough defensively, so they can't affect that bounce pass. But I believe that might have been a chest pass that got Samuels a wide open 3 on that one. Still effective.
Indeed. Chest passes are not banned But if you can do bounce pass, they do a bounce pass. Swider picks up the foul.
You see the bounce pass to Cole Swider, knocking down the three. And now the chest pass, moving it. Oh, Swider's in the film room tomorrow, throwing that chest pass to Samuels, who's able to knock down the three.
But, you know, it was preceded by a ball fake.
I'll give you this example, and it's so interesting that you talked about that earlier in the game. So a couple years ago, Nike Basketball Academy, we got a breakfast club. So early morning, 6 a.m. session, myself, Miles Simon, who's now with the LA Lakers of ESPN fame.
Yep.
We take a group that included Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart. And so we're working on, you know, one of my things that I always work on is shooting footwork. And so I'm telling Jalen, look, when you come off, you can move into your right. You get your inside foot down, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And he says to me, Ford, I appreciate it, but we can't do that. I mean, and I asked him, I said, what do you mean you can't do it? He says, no, at Villanova, we don't do that. Everything is jump stop. Everything is this, that, and other. And in the NBA, honestly, that footwork is not, you know, it's not the norm in the NBA. But it works so well for what Jay Wright has done. And the reason why he's been able to build these great habits, practice habits, you know, development habits for his players. But he got that from Rollie Massimino. It was handed down to him from Rollie Massimino. And he's continued that tradition on.
And for those who don't remember, Rollie Massimino led Villanova to the 1985 National Championship. Jay Wright spent 7 years on Rolie's staff, 5 at Villanova, 2 at UNLV. And then, of course, he got his first head coaching job at Hofstra University on Long Island. Took the Pride to a couple of NCAA tournaments in 2000, 2001, led by the great Speedy Claxton. And then spent the last 19 years back at Nova. But later tonight, the 2K Empire Classic gets underway at Madison Square Garden. The Hoyas take on the Longhorns at 7 Eastern, followed by top-ranked Duke against California. Those games airing on ESPN2. How good's Duke?
Duke is very good, and the reason why Duke is very good is because they could have arguably the top point guard in the country. And Trey Jones, who, in my opinion, was the best recruiting job that Mike Krzyzewski did this year, getting Trey to come back to Duke for a sophomore season. But one thing that I will say about the Blue Devils, they can't score the way that Villanova does. You know, they had to rely on Trey Jones coming up with a career-high 31 points to beat Georgia State at home. You know, and this is right after Kentucky was upset at home, you know, by Walter McCarty and Evansville. One of the best personalities we have in college basketball, Ron Hunter, now the head man at Tulane, coming up in our next game.
Looking forward to that. You can watch that game over on ESPN. Sadiq Bey with his second triple of the day.
And I understand the reasoning why Coach Nick McDevitt is playing zone against Villanova, because Villanova was slicing them up offensively when they were guarding the man-to-man.
Here we go.
Gets his first basket as a Wildcat.
Folks here in Nova Blue appreciate the magnitude of that bucket for that young man coming back from shoulder surgery. Missed dunk. Second effort. Jackson throws it down. Timeout, Middle Tennessee.
Actually, one of the shots at 10:35 on the clock, one of the threes that Villanova made was reviewed throughout the timeout, and you see the score now 80-50, taking away a point from Villanova. The foot was actually on the line. I believe that was the Samuels three. Off of the chest pass. That's what it was. It was the chest pass that threw him off, put him in front of the three-point line.
Now here's Antoine for three. Well beyond the three-point line. His first made jump shot.
And it's amazing to see what getting out in fast break, getting that dunk, seeing that one go through, and the confidence that builds right out of the timeout, able to step up and knock down the three-pointer.
That's a two-point shot. Left foot certainly on the line by Eli Lawrence.
And that's really the difference in the three-point line this year when you look at it extended to the FIBA distance. You don't see as many off-the-dribble threes as you did in previous times, with the line being almost a foot.
Team USA win the FIBA U19 World Cup And they both played extremely well. And Perry was the MVP.
You know what I noticed in doing my Mississippi State notes?
What's that?
The way I learned how to spell Mississippi.
Really? We're going that far back? Or you just learned now, you're saying, within the last few weeks?
The way I learned is stuck with me. M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I.
Really?
You don't know that?
Well, I'm from the north. I never heard that before.
But
crooked letter I.
Crooked letter I, humpback I. That's the way we, growing up in the South, I guess Virginia's the South, learn how to spell Mississippi.
Depends on your perspective. From my perspective, it's the South. That's good to learn. Good to know.
It's kind of southern north for me, but, you know.
Yeah. He's Corey Alexander. I'm Doug Sherman. Glad you're with us. Started this morning. And as we mentioned, Mississippi State Tulane's going to come up at about 2 o'clock on ESPNU. So you get your chance to see Reggie Perry and the Bulldogs and see if Ben Howland's team can get into the win column and set up a matchup with Villanova tomorrow. That's presuming Nova holds on to this 31-point lead. They've been in control seemingly from the opening tip.
Give Johnson a lot of credit for the way he's competed here, especially in this second half, making plays that time to drop off to Jackson for the dunk. But I like the way that Johnson has gone about his business here in this second half. Now getting the job done defensively against Slater.
Gillespie into the paint, finds the cutting slider for the layup.
And those two guys were the stars of the first half. They've been able to pretty much chill out here in the second half. And one of the luxuries that Jay Wright has right now with this lead, when you consider he's going to play 3 games in 4 days, to rest some of his starters, knowing that they're going to have to come back and play a back-to-back tomorrow. But it's been some great passing over the last couple possessions. Johnson to Jackson, able to finish it off. And then Gillespie to Swatter for the easy layup.
Now the big applause is for Chris Arcidiacono into the game for the first time. Not sure what the boos are about. Any idea?
No, I was listening to you for once.
For once is right. But
see what happens?
There is the latest Arcidiacono, part of Villanova royalty, getting his first action here today. Of course, his older brother Ryan made the pass to Chris Jenkins to win the 2016 national title, now with the Chicago Bulls. Cosby Roundtree to the left hand. Very nice look.
Nice finish by Roundtree there. I mentioned earlier, he's really the only true big that Villanova has in their rotation. And he's going to have to play minutes when they go up and play against the bigger teams and give them something on the interior.
You know, Cosby Roundtree had a great start to the season last year. Most outstanding player, the Advocare Invitational, which Villanova won down in Orlando. But he had a shin problem that festered throughout the year that required off-season surgery. And by the end of last year, he wasn't dunking. He wasn't making layups. He was having trouble with the shin that now apparently is 100%.
You see still with a 30-plus point lead, getting on the floor for Samuels. A Villanova junior. And leading to another easy bucket for Brian Antoine.
Triple for the Blue Raiders by C.J. Jones. Young man out of Birmingham, Alabama. His dad, Chad, played at UAB back in the day.
And I'm going to say this. We're going to watch. That's one guy it's often difficult to throw a lob too high for. Samuels got his hands on the basketball, just unable to finish it. And he got his hands on the basketball in the last possession, diving on the floor, which allows for an easy layup for Brian Antoine, who now has 7 points in his Villanova debut. But I was talking earlier, we get in this format, we get an opportunity to see both these teams in a back-to-back setting. C.J. Jones, who hasn't really been able to have his normal type of game in this against his Villanova defense, has still been productive. I can expect for him to have a big game tomorrow, regardless as to who he plays against, whether it's Mississippi State or Tulane. I'm expecting a big game out of him and Green tomorrow.
Archie Diacono's first shot that rimmed out drew a groan from this very pro Villanova crowd here in Myrtle Beach. With a back-to-back, do you expect anybody to sit out for load management?
I'm going to go with the no.
At the line, Donovan Sims. Sports Center 6 Eastern after PTI with Sage and John Anderson. Now look at how much pressure Deshaun Watson under tonight against the Colts. Plus forecasting Ohio State star Chase Young's return Saturday against Penn State. And the Cowboys Patriots winning edge inside the numbers. Sports Center on ESPN and the ESPN app right after PTI. Samuels forces his way into the lane. Makes it look very easy. Now, we talked about the fact that Villanova has great balance. Has 6 players averaging double figures. We get a foul before the last 3:48. The reserves are going to get their chance. Samuels, the starter, is still out there. But a chance for some of these other guys to get some run. And as you mentioned, Corey, chance for the starters perhaps to save their legs a little bit for a game tomorrow.
Yes, but also another chance for Brian Antoine to get some quality minutes because he will be part of that reserve group for now.
Yeah.
It could be all season long, but it would be a spectacular, addition to this team that Jay Wright can bring off the bench and provide instant offense. And he's excited about being back on the court and playing. You can see everything from social media involving Brian Antoine and how happy he is to be back on the court.
Samuels has his pocket picked by Donovan Sims. Junior point guard. Had his shot blocked, but there hustling is Eli Lawrence to clean it up. Pressure handled nicely. Archie Diacono. Coach says he's a better three-point shooter than his older brother was when his older brother was a freshman. He's 0 for 2 in this one so far, but both of the shots have gone onto the rim very softly. Got a nice stroke. Young man is a late bloomer. Didn't have much Division I interest coming out of high school. Went to prep school, though, and bloomed, evolved into somebody worthy of playing at Villanova. It's a lifelong dream for him. His dad played college football for the Wildcats. Mom also went to Nova. That's where mom and dad met.
Oh, so you're saying that Ryan had no chance of going anywhere else?
That's not true. Chris's twin sister goes to Penn State. So you can go somewhere else.
You can go somewhere. It's not encouraged. And it does definitely make Thanksgiving a bit awkward.
Yes.
Okay, you can go somewhere else.
You can. Although, if all things being equal, if Pat Chambers offered one of the Archie Diacono boys a chance to go play for the Nittany Lions, I have a feeling they still pick Villanova. No offense to Penn State, but it is. I mean, they are Villanova royalty.
This is true.
There's Coach Wright. He played his basketball at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania, graduated in '83.
Got his first head coaching job at Hofstra, where he's still very revered.
Yeah.
As he should be. Great guy. I wasn't going to make it down to their practice yesterday. So, of course, I never told you, but I did tell Jay Wright because I care more about what he thinks about me than you do.
Brandon Slater.
And immediately, Coach Wright texts me right back immediately.
Moves and odds at the other end. Eli Lawrence above the rim. All right, so he texted you back. Coach Wright texted you back.
Well, no, it's just the fact that, he's still, 2 national championships and all the success that he's had later.
Yeah.
He still answers a text.
Yeah.
And again, that's just the way he is as a person. He's the same way he was before he won national championships, and he was regarded as, if not the best, one of the best college basketball coaches in the game today. But he's still the same guy.
Archie Diacono showing off that stroke. First points of his college career. And the fans come to their feet.
As does Colin Gillespie, cheering on his teammate and appreciating seeing Arcidiacono knock down the three from the top of the key. To the delight of the Villanova faithful have made the trip here to Myrtle Beach. And Villanova is very well traveled.
Oh, yes. You know, that's the other part of the equation. We talked to Coach Wright about why have you won 6 straight November events, and he talked about having good players and veteran players who are ready to win basketball games early in the year. Another part of it, you can't deny it, is the fact that every one of these gyms, neutral site gyms that they play in November, they have more fans than anybody else.
And when you look at it and you say, okay, well, this is a Thursday afternoon game, there most likely will be more Villanova fans here as the weekend goes along.
Yep.
Getting down for tomorrow's game and eventually on Sunday, especially if they're able to play in the championship game.
And it's been that way for a long, long time. And to put a postscript on our conversation about Coach Jay Wright, he not only treats big shots like you well, he treats all the rest of us well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, he's just a good guy. You know, I'm not a big shot by any stretch of the imagination, but I do appreciate the compliment from you. They don't come that often.
What'd you say?
Hey, Brian Antoine going to mess around and get into double figures. And we talked about, you know, already 6 guys averaging in double figures for Villanova. He may be a 7th. Didn't get off to a fast start in his debut, but has a chance.
Arcidiacono knocks it away. And now the Wildcats can take the air out of it. Well, perhaps the Ohio State game is a distant memory. Nova looks very much like a top 25 team to get the Myrtle Beach Invitational started in